The Father sent Jesus. You see, this earth will get spoiled. And the only way to preserve it is to apply salt. Can you raise salt and apply salt to the earth? And he raised disciples. And I'm thinking that you are one of those he also raised. And he has scattered us everywhere. Campuses, streets, towns, villages, everywhere he has scattered us. Yet the earth is getting spoiled. So who should we blame? God, who sent Jesus, or Jesus, who raised salt and applied the salt, or the earth that is getting spoiled? Of course, we cannot blame the Father, for he has sent the Son, and the Son did what he was commanded to do. The earth is not doing anything wrong by getting spoiled. It has to get spoiled. But salt that should have stopped that decadence cannot arrest this situation. It means this salt is only salt in color and not in savor. I wonder why people will even choose your room to come and commit fornication. And you say, excuse me, my friend. And then you release your room. Say, don't worry, but excuse me, don't stay long. Because I have prayer meeting with my friend. We are coming to pray. Inside that same room. Beautiful nonsense. Excellent rubbish. I am just thinking that the man that God put in charge, there is a command for him to have dominion over everything that God created. And I want to say to you, friends, that there is nothing anywhere that God created, permit me, good or bad, that God did not put under the feet of the man that he made. However, as early as chapter 6, I started seeing something different. Can we just please see something there? No, chapter 4. Can I ask you to look at chapter 4? Genesis. Are you there? I am going to read from verse 6. And the Lord said unto Cain, why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shalt thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. I'm confused. I'm confused that early enough God came to Cain and told him that sin is at the door. And the desire of that sin is towards him. And God said, thou shalt rule over sin. What else do you think Cain needed for him to have victory? To be forewarned is to be forearmed. The Lord was gracious to him to tell him even where sin was. The Lord was gracious to tell him that sin will not change its mind. His desire will be towards Cain, so that Cain can be prepared for sin. And on top of that, God said, thou shalt rule over that sin. But I was surprised. The next verse. Cain and his brother Abel were in the field and they were talking. And suddenly he rose against his brother and he killed him. I said, but I thought God said you will rule over this thing. Bro, tell me that something did not tell you that where you are going is not the right place for you to go. Sister, tell me that something did not warn you that if you go to that house, that young man will sleep with you. Tell me that you didn't have a dream that you had a precious jewel that got lost and you sought for it with tears and you didn't find it. And the next day there was a text message. That young man inviting you over to his place. And the Holy Spirit came and said, you will lose this jewel if you go. I thought all things were to be under him. However, we saw that he was under all things. Common lie is so strong that you cannot do without telling it. Some of you lost your flour just over a recharge card of 500 naira. Just a plate of jollof rice was your price. And I asked, how much does that cost? I read in my Bible, who can find a virtuous woman? Who? No man by searching can ever find one. If anybody tells you to shine your eye to search for a woman, that person is only wasting your time. No man can find a virtuous woman by searching. All preachers who preach such things are preachers from somewhere else, not from Jesus. They are mere psychologists on the pulpits. There's nowhere it is written in the Bible. Even Adam, in his perfect state, looking exactly like God, could not find a woman, a help, meet for him by using his eyes. All he saw were animals and birds. Until he slept and God produced one and brought her to him, he couldn't find one. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is above rubies. If a man could afford all the rubies in the world, yet is not funded enough to afford one virtuous woman. So whoever finds a wife has not discovered her by searching. He has only obtained God's favor. Now, if you are that valued, that all the rubies in the world cannot pay your price, how come that a plate of jollof rice became your price? Oh, are you celebrating such? Are you celebrating such evil? Are you rejoicing over such evil? I don't know. You are a very smart young man. When it comes to academics, you are a frontliner. No man can compete with you. You are just smart. You are just intelligent. There is no course in the university that could harass you. You have won laurels. You've won scholarships and you don't even know what to do with them. However, just one tiny titty, very tiny girl, and she's not as intelligent as you are. She has not even gained admission into university. She'll be struggling with WAEC, and then she has come to you to teach her. And in the process of teaching her, she taught you also fornication. How could you be a great Samson like this, that a small Delilah will cheapen your life? You are created that all things should be under your feet, and not you to be under anything. How come that alcoholic beverage has become the Lord over your life? You adjust yourself until you see a bottle of Guinness. Once you sight it, you lose control. Excuse me, what is big in holding a phone in your hand and you have data there? What does it take to say no to a porn site? Why are you so weak that you cannot say no to that prompting that says it's time to watch that sex film, and you could not resist it? As smart as you are, intellectual illiterate. I am just wondering, that writer said, but now we do not see all things yet under him. He is a slave to all things. Instead of him to be the master of all things, he's a slave of all things. Slave unto his emotion, slave unto his appetite, slave unto his taste for fashion, slave unto sleep. As small as sleep is a slave of sleep. It is a wonder. And I'm also wondering in my heart, Rebecca, excuse me, she had waited for about 20 years for the fruit of the womb, and it was not forthcoming. And suddenly the Lord came to her, and the Lord said, I've answered your prayer. And she became pregnant, and God blessed her with a set of twins. But at a point, the discomfort became unbearable, because the children were struggling within her. And I remember her prayers. She went to the Lord and said, if you have answered my prayer, why am I thus? Why am I like this? Why is my case like this? If you truly answered my prayer, is this prayer answered or trouble? See how beautiful you are as a young lady, pretty everywhere. You are the desire of every young man, because you are very, very beautiful. Some will even pass come and said, God must have spent overtime on you because you are spotless and flawless. How blessed you are. Except that you are a thief. And we don't know how to relate that, how to connect that. That as beautiful as you are, you pilfer. Nobody can be careless with his or her phone when you are around. That phone will rapture or rupture. Rachel was such a very beautiful lady. So beautiful that Jacob wanted to trade away his future just to marry her. She was so beautiful that Jacob was willing to waste 20 years of his productive life to get her. And eventually, he married her. And when it was time for Jacob to return home, Rachel did not see any other thing to steal except idols, images, erebeji. Excuse me, what is she going to do with it? My dad's lawyer, long gone now, I followed my father to his chamber one night and they were talking. I was a small boy in primary school. And I was telling my father, because my father was raising him as a Christian, and said, look, you know, I don't take any case that is about robbery or stealing. That's what you said the Bible say I should. So I said, that's all right. But there is a case. When the young man came and he told me his story, he's a thief. He said, I told him, even though it is not good to be a thief, but you are a good thief, I will defend you. Now, I am not by that saying that it is good to be a thief, or you can have good reasons to be a thief. There is no reason. But I just brought that statement because of what I wanted to say. That even if Rachel was going to steal, shouldn't she steal something that is reasonable? Even if you are going to steal, shouldn't you go and steal the latest iPhone? Should you be stealing Nokia 3310? As beautiful as you are, you cannot think beautifully. Rachel stole images, idols, and then she went away with it. And her father detected. And that man ran after her husband. He thought Jacob must have stolen those images, because actually whoever is in possession of those images becomes the heir of that idol worshiper. And Jacob looked at Laban when the man brought forth the allegation, said, me? Steal? Even if I steal, will it be idols that I will steal? Me, Jacob, the son of Isaac, the son of Abraham. Whoever is in possession of that idol shall not live. It sounded like a careless statement. God stood there to say, I heard you. And Jacob said, everybody come out of your tent. Ogaliban, search everywhere. Anywhere. Search. If you find your idols, whoever is in possession of that idol, here, we are going to execute him. And the first tent that Laban entered was Jacob's tent, because he was the prime suspect. Search his tent, he couldn't find it. Then he looked round. And Jacob was married to 4 women. Leah, Bilhah, Zilpah, Rachel. He looked round, said, this Leah is an ugly girl. Her ugliness is a sign that she'll be ugly inside. So he went into her tent, searched everywhere. It was not there. Came to Bilhah's tent, searched, it was not there. Came to Zilpah's tent, searched, it was not there. You would think he will go to Rachel's tent. No, he went back to Leah's tent to search it the second time. It was not there. Finally, for formality's sake, he now came inside Rachel's tent. And Rachel sat on something. And she told her father, my lord, it has come to me after the manner of women. I cannot rise. He said, I know you are too beautiful to be a thief. It must be that Leah. She must have hidden that thing somewhere. I know her. She's very cunning. It's all right, my daughter. Just relax. Sister, what are you using your beauty to cover? And it was as if what Jacob said, God had forgotten. Few kilometers before they reached home, Rachel fell into labor. And during that child's birth, the word of her husband came to pass on her life. She died because she was in possession of those images. On what are you sitting? I know you are escorted in the fellowship on campus, and that is what you are using as a seat to cover your atrocities. The question is, why should a beautiful Rachel and very beautiful girl, remember she was the only one that was tending the flock of their father. Jethro had about 7 daughters or so. All of them will go and graze the animals. Laban had 2 daughters. It was only Rachel that will go and graze the animal. Leah will sit back at home. Very beautiful, yet she couldn't be in control of her desire, inordinate desire for what was not hers. I must ask you, when will you be free from what is controlling your life? Or do you think it is normal that every time sin knocks at your door, you must respond? Do you think it is normal that when anger comes, you cannot say no? You must fly off the handle, open the lid, and just go wild. No man will be able to tame you. You think it is normal? You think it is normal to be an homosexual? When the urge comes for you to masturbate, you cannot resist it. Or do you think only men who marry men are homosexual? And only women who marry women are homosexual? He who masturbates also is an homosexual, because he's a man that sleeps with himself. And they call it very beautifully in English, when it involves women, they call it lesbianism. And that means less than a beast. Are you not less than an animal? That what animals will not do, you are involved. The lamentation of the writer of the Hebrews, up up till now, we do not see all things yet under him. We know he's in the choir, but we do not see all things under him. We know he's a good drama artist, but we do not see all things under him. He has control of his voice. When he sings, you see good voice, but that's the only thing he has control over. All other things is under. When he handles the drums, you know that this is skill personified. When you handle the keyboard, you know that this guy is skillful. He has control over the keyboard, but that's the only thing he has control over. Every other thing controls him. He is so cheap in the hand of the enemy. It was a lamentation of the book of the writer of the book of Hebrews. Can I return to the book of Hebrews right now, so that I can tie the loose ends together and we can race towards the place of prayer and we can trust God this moment to help us. Are you in Hebrews? I'm going to read the last part of verse 8 and the first part of verse 9. But now we see not yet all things put under him, but we see Jesus, who was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death. I wish I could spend some time to discuss with you. However, I want you to take note of the word but. The word but, without sounding technical, is a sharp departure from the line we are coming with. This man that you made a little lower than the angels, this man that you have crowned with glory and honor, this man that you set over all the works of your hand. Unfortunately, what we see in him does not reflect what you call him. However, there is an exception, but Jesus. But Jesus we see. I have been torn apart on what do I present to you. The person of Jesus. And I talk about his ministry. I talk about his life. I talk about his victory. I wish I could push that. But I'm also thinking in my mind, if I push that, I may not be able to anchor properly what has become the thought line of this discussion. I am thinking in my mind that whereas it will not be out of place for me to talk about the virgin birth of Jesus and talk about the sinless life of Jesus and talk about the death of Jesus, the burial of Jesus, and the resurrection of Jesus, his ascension and his coming back, which constitute the entire gospel of Jesus. I wish I could talk about that, but I am going to look at him not fully in that light. That will have been a discussion on its own, and just talking about Jesus as a person. But the phrase "but we see Jesus," as I see it, even on our pamphlet, is so arresting, is so incisive and so probing that I have complained that it is this body that is not allowing me to do the will of God. But we see Jesus, who also carried this body, who said, "A body you have prepared me, O God, to do thy will." That whereas you complain that it is this your body that is making you so weak and rebellious, and so there is nobody who carried this body that will not be weak and rebellious. But we see Jesus, who also carried the same body. And not only Jesus, we also see men who are following him, who carry the same body, and who are not slave unto sin. My challenge this afternoon is therefore to introduce to you the Jesus. Permit me to talk again about one convert that God gave unto me recently, which I am begging God that he will help me to raise. He's a Fulani man who used to buy cow from him whenever we want to have our retreats. And I just felt, how can I be giving him Jesus money and I will not offer him Jesus? It doesn't make sense. So one day in front of my house, I decided to confront him with the gospel of Jesus. And God was just gracious. So in our discussion, I told him that is it possible for him to bring meat before cow, cooked or fried, and give it to them to eat? I said no. I said, why? He told me that cow does not eat cow. And that's very beautiful. He said, God never created cow to eat cow. So I told him that when you want to do you call it oblation? Wash your 2 legs, wash your 2 hands, your 2 ears, your nose, oblation, all right? Your face, your head, and then your mouth. Because those are the places where they think sin come from. And I said, just think. And then he stole again. They cut the 2 hands. I asked him, does that make him to stop stealing? He thought for a while. He said no, because he could still have it in mind to steal. And he can even send somebody to help him steal. I am just that none of us on all sides, yet without sin. He was reviled, yet he reviled not. They abused him, yet he did not abuse back. They slapped him, yet he did not retaliate. Look, I have wondered at this manner of man. What is the secret behind it? Why was he a different person? Why is he different from the other man that was also made a little lower than the angels, crowned with glory and honor as he is crowned? And yet that one has all things over him, but he has all things under him. What's the difference? What's the difference between a Christian who is living victoriously over sin and the other one who is a slave of sin? What's the difference? Perhaps you have also read about him. He was stoned to death. While he wanted to die, he had already prayed and said, Lord, receive my soul. And I thought that should be the final word, and he should fall asleep. But as soon as he said that, it appears he remembered that it would not be right for him to go without praying for those who stoned him. The Bible said, and he knelt down and he cried with a loud voice, lay it not against them. And then he fell and slept. Why? You are not going to forgive. In fact, one of you is here, it is your mother who offended you. And you have made up your mind you will never forgive her. I'm asking you, why is wickedness having a space in your heart? Why will a cow not eat meat? Is it because it's not hungry? Or is it because the food is not well prepared? But that cow will prefer to die of hunger than to eat flesh. Why? Because his DNA was never coded to eat flesh. He has a nature that does not eat flesh. By nature, is herbivorous. Not because he's not hungry. So I ask you, why is it that your heart races towards sin all the time? Why is it that you derive pleasure in sin all the time? Why do you feel comfortable committing sin all the time? Could it not be that it is also the way you are wired? Could it not be a matter of your DNA? And the Jesus we see, could it not be because of his own DNA? How many minutes do I have left, sir? I should continue. Don't worry. You know, because God has given us leaders over this meeting, and it is their responsibility under God to moderate the meeting. So we must take instruction from them. Even though you desire something, however, the leadership have been saddled with that responsibility to tell us when to stop. So in few minutes I'll be stopping. Now, can I just, don't worry about the few minutes, don't try to know. Few minutes may not be 2 minutes, so don't worry. My heart this afternoon is to talk about just one thing about Jesus. And it is that I want to bring to you. It means lying is one of the works that flesh does. It means anger is one of the works that flesh does. Now, it tells me that if a man who remove fornication and all the works from his life, it doesn't make him free from the flesh. Flesh is like a tree that brings the fruit. And as long as the tree is intact, it will bring another set of fruit in its season. That's why when you are fasting, the flesh will keep quiet for you. We allow you to finish your fast. And once you finish your fast, it comes back. The last time you got pregnant, you stayed away from fornication for a while. Having aborted that pregnancy in your wickedness, and once your heart and your body was healed, supposedly, you are full throttle in fornication again. Why did you go there? It is because that fornication is a product of a nature that is in you. So a man who commits sin is not a sinner because he commits sin, but fornication is an evidence that he is a sinner. What makes you a sinner is not the lie you told, but that lie proves who you are. Fornication is born a sinner. And so, if any man wants to be free from that, it means that nature must be changed. And I want to take you back to Jesus. When the Bible says, he shall save his people from their sins, he told Nicodemus the nature is changed. I wish I could pause and ask you to think how many times you have struggled to free yourself from sin. This Christ did. The nature that is called flesh that commits sin was poured into a cup, and that cup was given to Jesus at Gethsemane. When he took the cup, he transferred that nature into himself. And when he went to the cross and he was nailed to the cross, that nature that commits sin was nailed to the cross. I asked myself, if my grandfather died at the age of 6, my father will have died in him, I will have died in him, my children will also have died in him. But because he did not die at that age, he gave back to my father, and my father also gave back to me, and I've also given back to children. And so it continued. That day that Christ was crucified, somebody in your lineage was alive that day. If that person was not, you will not be here today. Somebody in your family lineage was alive, and God took the nature of sin in that man and planted it in Jesus and asked Jesus to take that nature to Calvary. So when Jesus was nailed to Calvary, nailed to the cross at Calvary, the man that was alive in your lineage was in Jesus. And so that nature was nailed to the cross with Jesus. And so when Jesus died, that nature also died. And when he rose, a new person also rose. I wasn't there in the garden when Adam ate the fruit, but I was in him. I was in his loins. So what happened to him that day affected everybody that came out of him. And so the book of Matthew chapter 1 started with, this is the book of the generation of Jesus. He came to start a new family. And this afternoon, I have simply come to advertise this new family to you, that you can be free from the power of sin. It is one thing to be forgiven your sin. It is another thing to be delivered from sin. I have come to tell you that only in Jesus you will find power to change your nature, and sin will be out of your life, and there will be no more appetite for sin. Not because that cow is not hungry, but because by nature it doesn't eat flesh. Not because there is no temptation to commit sin, but because the nature that Christ will put in you, if you will come to him this afternoon, will be such a nature that does not respond to the promptings of sin. Rise to your feet.